All right, so today I got director of performance at Houston Rockets. So, Coach, can you like introduce yourself a little bit for the people that don't know you that well?
Well, hello everyone. My name is Willie Cruz. I am the athletic performance director for the Houston Rockets. I am in my ninth season with the Houston Rockets. I've been here living in Houston. I have a wife. Just had a we have a 5 month old daughter, Sarah and Anara. So it's good to be in a place where you're working, but also you can call it home. So I've been here for 9 years. Like I said, I got my start in the NBA in 2017. I worked for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, Came into that role as a third assistant strength coach, and it was unique because it was the first time that an NBA team had created a position where the strength and conditioning space would have, a third person. Typically, at that time, it was 1 to 2 people in the weight room. They wanted to start to build more of an individualized approach, have more bodies in the weight room, and so my opportunity there came from that. And so that was a blessing. Prior to that, I was at Fordham University. So I worked at Fordham University in New York City. I worked on my master's degree in media management, and I was also a strength and conditioning coach for the basketball team. So as I'm starting to tell a little bit of my story, I'm backtracking, but it's very non-linear. It wasn't your typical, get the CSCS internship and work your way up. My journey was a little bit different in the sense that I played basketball all my life. Went to Eastern Kentucky. I ended up getting hurt my sophomore year, and through that injury process, rehabbing and coming back from injury, I decided to forego my junior and senior year. And from that decision, it was like, do I go to law school or do I, stay on as a basketball coach? When you go through something like that, where your identity and everything is tied up in sport, you get you get almost to like a rock bottom place, and that's really where I was my sophomore year in college, where I had got pretty burnt out during the rehab process. So I went through a big mental battle, in that process, and I didn't talk about that for many years, but it definitely shaped the way that I viewed human and performance and strength and conditioning. So from there, I stayed on as an intern where I worked with all the teams at Eastern Kentucky, football, soccer, while staying on with the basketball team and doing a lot of the dynamic warm-ups and things of that nature, helping out in the weight room. So I was able to get a ton of experience extremely early in strength and conditioning through the injury. And so it was it was a blessing in disguise. And lightning in the bottle from that moment where I knew that strength and conditioning was something I wanted to do, and I found my second passion in that space outside of basketball. So it was a beautiful move forward in the sense that I was able to stay with basketball, be in a basketball setting, but be in the weight room where I could develop the athletes behind the curtain, so to speak. And so that became more of my mission, I would say, was development in the human body, right? Looking at it from the standpoint of mind, body, spirit, and that's really where it started for me because of my experience, right? Going through the hard times with the injury process, I looked at the strength and conditioning side, like, hey, it's great to build the body up physically, but it's also great to connect it to who you are as a person. And I think we're starting to see more of that lens in human and performance, human betterment in the athletic space and culture. And so I use that experience to further my education, kind of get me in the room. So I was working with kids on the side, doing strength and conditioning with Eastern Kentucky. putting in a lot of hours, getting a lot of practical experience, working as a personal trainer. So I was 20, 21 at the time, and then segue into moving to Fordham. Again, I apologize for going back and forth, but
Yeah, you're
from
good.
Eastern Kentucky going to Fordham University, I followed our coach to Fordham, and we we started something there that was special and unique, and it was like I was his third call. He had called the assistant strength or the assistant coach that was with him at Eastern Kentucky, and then he said he called me second because he said if I'm gonna go to New York and build a team, the strength and conditioning department is an extension of my coaching staff, and that's one of my biggest hires that I want to make. And he said, you know, you as a player, and all of the work you've done in strength and conditioning, I want to present this opportunity with you. And so, truth be told, I didn't even have my CSCS at the time. And yeah, it was just basically experience. And so he's like, I want to hire you as the strength and conditioning coach, and you know, you can work on, you know, your CSCS, get that. But it was like a backwards model where most people get the credentialing and then they get the job. For me, it was like my experience, character that got me in the room, got me a seat at the table, and then I was able to work on, you know, the credentialing in school. And from that position at Fordham, I worked there 2 years. And then I went to OKC for 2 years, worked on another master's degree. So while I was there, I got a degree in exercise science from Edith Cowan University in Australia. And that led me to the position with the Rockets as an assistant strength and conditioning coach. And then I worked my way up and got promoted just a short year after I came to the Rockets in 2019 to director of athletic performance.
Nice, nice. So, prior to injury, when you're at Eastern Kentucky, do you ever imagine like you're gonna be a strength coach in the league?
That's a great question. In high school, I didn't like the weight room. I played basketball, football. I did not like the weight room, man. It was like we had a coach and he was yeah, I guess I can say he was like a meathead. He was all about lifting, man, all about it. And for me, it was like I was a basketball player, you know, that old mindset of like your shot's going to get messed up if you lift too much, too many weights. I just wasn't informed. And at that time, I was just told to lift weights without the educational piece of how it would transfer over into the basketball performance. And I think that was a big gap that was missing in high school. So that's why I didn't like it because I wasn't educated on the benefit of it. But then um, my freshman year, I thought I was going to be in the NBA or play professionally. You know, to be honest with you, I thought, I mean, I I I ate, slept, dreamt about basketball. Everything was basketball from sun up to sundown since I was 9 years old. You know, I found that joy as a kid playing sports, playing basketball, and I thought that I would make it. I always prided myself on trying to be the hardest worker in the room and trying to be the very best that I could. I think I over exceeded expectations. You know, I wasn't the fastest um, athlete in high school, and so at the Division I level, they always tell you need to be fast, strong, and big to make it to the Division I level. And at my sophomore year, I was not that. I was slow. I was skilled, but I was slow. And so I had to put more effort into the speed and agility side. And that's really when I started to love the training process. And because I started to see the results of like what people would say, like, this is your weak area. And then what I would start to experience in my progress from the work that I was putting in. So my feet got faster. It was showing on the court. I ended up getting a Division I scholarship. So it was like there was this nice trajectory up from my training process. And then I started to like, man, I really like training. I see the benefit of it. And when I got to college, it was just like freshman year. I'm in the weight room. I'm the strength coach, guinea pig. I'm getting there early. I'm doing all the things. I was the only freshman there. So, me and him, he was like one of my best friends. We had a lot of conversations. Really helped me, mentored me. And then my sophomore year, I had another strength coach, different training philosophy, and I was like his best friend. So it was like while I was playing basketball, I was building these relationships with people who did strength and conditioning. And so I was learning about it, not thinking that I would ever be a strength coach just because I love the training process. And then I end up getting hurt. And one of the strength coaches was like, "Hey, I think you would be an awesome strength coach. You're a great encourager. The guys, they respect you, they listen to you. You've always worked hard. You're always curious about the body and how these different training systems lead to better basketball performance." So he was like, "You should probably study the NSCA book and try to be a strength coach." And lo and behold, I had prayed about that, and I end up making that decision to follow that pathway, and have never looked back since.
Nice, nice. Do you still talk to those two coaches, and are they still in our field?
Yeah, so one of them is completely out of the field. From my freshman year, and then Ivan Anquatsa, he's running a sports like performance center in Michigan, and so he was my strength coach my sophomore year, and we still keep in contact. But he's doing strength and conditioning more in the private sector now, and when he left actually to pursue the private sector is when our coaching staff entrusted me to take over his position halfway through the year. So I was rehabbing, but then my junior year, I was just basically speed and agility strength coach with our team. So it was like former player, now just kind of thrown in the fire.
So, like you mentioned, like you work with the athlete first, then uh credential like later. Do you think that like because it's not how like coaches get hired, like especially at this time, most of the coaches get their credential first instead of like experience first. So
Hmm.
is there like do you think that help you become a better strength coach in some ways?
Absolutely. I think I always prided myself on the experience. To be honest with you, I'm not the brightest crayon in the box. I don't think that, certain scientific principles come just natural and easy to me. And so being a basketball player, studying sports management in my undergrad program at Eastern Kentucky, it wasn't like I was taking a bunch of courses or electives that were exercise science based or biomechanics based. So I think looking back on it, I was able to sharpen my blade because I was always so passionate about learning and growing, and I wasn't afraid to fail. I think looking back on the daunting idea of sitting down for a CSCS, and I didn't have 4 years to study and to grow in knowledge in that area, and then all of a sudden I had to take my self study and then pass this course so that my career could get started. I think it taught me a lot about myself, to be honest, that even when you don't have maybe the resources, or just something, you're up against a mountain, right? And that, for me, looking back on it, I remember that times like, man, this is a mountain, man. Like, this is going to be hard to do, because I failed the CSCS my first time. And it's like, all right, well, if I'm called to be a coach, I have to be competent. I have to have the credentialing. So I was just fortunate that the early on, the coaches, they respected my character, they respected my experience and knowledge, and they allowed me the time that I needed to pass the CSCS. And then when I got to OKC again, that kind of pathway followed me a little bit, where when I got to OKC, I didn't have a didactic. That's the way they worded it. I didn't have an exercise science master's degree. So it was told to me like, hey, in the professional space at the highest level in the NBA, you have all the experience in the world. We've in the interview process, you've taken us through all the lifts, you know, the practical parts of the science, you know, you use catapult at Fordham, like you know all the things, but in this realm, that piece of paper moves the needle for who we have in the room oftentimes because people want to know that you're competent, right? And so what they did is they paid for a master's degree while I was working as a strength coach, and I'm forever grateful for that because it set the stage for where I am today. But that 2 years was like, I mean, it was a masterclass, so to speak. I was around 5 physical therapists every day. I mean, we had a great human and performance staff, and I got to learn practically. I got to learn in school, and then I got to learn just through trial and error and kind of put it all together. And it was like those 2 years just was like a launch pad to my career. And so I wouldn't change anything. I'm thankful that I was able to be at OKC without a degree because I think working on the exercise science degree and then being in such a high performing environment allowed me to again bring new information, new research to our environment and grow with the team as like more of a research and development person in the weight room. So it was a cool kind of dynamic where I think it had just accelerated my growth, my knowledge, my understanding for the space. And then when I got to the Rockets, it was just continuing to further my knowledge, you know, being just a lifelong learner, being a student of the craft, right? And you know, you go through functional movement screens, and you do all the different uh, credentialing so that you can further your knowledge, not to have just a name behind letters behind your name, but you do the credentialing so that you actually get knowledge that you can apply to make the athletes that you work with better. Because what good is knowledge if it doesn't lead to understanding, which ultimately leads to hopefully application? And so I tell people this all the time: gain knowledge, which will help you with your application, but really seek to understand what it is you're learning, right? And so you go through the Gary Gray program, you learn about, you know, 3D maps, and it's awesome. It looks cool, but what are you gathering from that information that you can apply into your weight room that's going to help your athletes be better at what they do? Because ultimately, we are in the service industry, right? And one of my core values is servanthood leadership and just using those principles where you fail forward, you know, like I said, with the credentialing, it wasn't about me having it or not having it. It was my mindset towards growth, my mindset towards, hey, I don't have it yet. I'm going to get it. And then you apply that mindset into your workspace. And I believe that everybody gets better when they have a growth mindset and they're constantly trying to get better every day.
Nice, nice. So obviously in the past few years, there's a lot of like uh soft tissue injury or Achilles tendon in the league, right? So the league's doing this biomechanics initiation. So
Yeah.
everybody have this biomechanics lab.
Mhm.
So uh do you think like this whole biomechanics lab's gonna change the way we view things? And like in terms of biomechanics, is there certain like topics or certain things you're trying to learn right now?
That's a great question because when you look at the NBA as a whole, you look at a body, right, an organization that is elite. It's up here. And so when you look at injuries across the board, you know, as a strength coach, as a clinician, sports scientist, nutritionist, everybody who's in on the athlete, right, is trying to make decisions daily that are informed so that you give the athlete the best robust program, right, that they can have so that they can be durable and healthy and optimize their performance. Now, with injuries, we also know the best predictor of injuries is previous injuries, right? And so our job, I like to say, is we are trying to mitigate the extent to in what the injury could be. We don't prevent injuries. We try to mitigate the extent of what it can be, right? And then you have, like you said, some of the tendon stuff, injuries, and like I don't really even like to say the word, but hey, it's the Achilles and the patellas and the injuries that take you out for a while, right? It's sad when you think about it because it's these guys put in so much hard work to just be robust and be strong and get on the court, and they have to trust their process, right? And I think when you look at the biomechanics lab, it's another tool that helps to give insight so that the program is strategic, right? And so you think about 3D motion cap, you think about all the research that was done to get the certain tests that we do with the biomechanics lab. Drop jumps, lateral jumps in the frontal plane, single leg hop jumps. You're looking at a joint by joint process to try to say, okay, at the foot, at the ankle, at the knee, hip, all the way up the chain. All right, this is the signature movement of this athlete. These are the decrements, right? These are the strengths, these are the weaknesses. This is how they express power, right? You're looking at the force curve line. You're trying to see, all right, is this guy more of a uh, power producing athlete where they go really low and they get up really high? Is this more of an elastic athlete? They get off the ground really quick and really high. So you're trying to gain understanding first of what kind of athlete you have. And so you do that right through your training. The training is the test and the test is the training. So we just have another resource in our hub to help us look holistically at the athlete to say, okay, these are your strong areas to optimize your performance. So we can say that you're a super athlete, right? Cool. But in the game of basketball, you have asymmetries eccentrically. So when you go down, you load more to your left than you do your right. Not at a small percentage, but at a very large percentage. That's really giving the coach, the clinician, everybody just as a objective number to say, let's further investigate that. See, I look at science and I don't think it's an end all be all. I think it furthers the conversation with the athlete involved too, right? Because now you can show them, hey, you can show them the 3D motion cap because they know their body. They can see what they're doing. You as the practitioner can give insight to, hey, this is what we're seeing. These are some modalities that we can add to try to, maybe fix or help with this area. And then you work the plan. But I think when you think about biomechanics in the lab that we have, it's an awesome tool, awesome research source. The NBA has done a phenomenal job upskilling everybody across the board. And I think when you think about the future of sport, 5, 10, 15 years from now, that's the area that it's trending towards. I mean, you think of artificial intelligence and you think about Whoop bands and all the different ways that we collect data. It's just only going to get more and more advanced. And so we have an opportunity with this, is I say a pilot year, because this is the first year that we're doing it, to gather insight, to gather data, and year after year, we'll be able to make more informed decisions to guide programming. Hopefully, that's the hope, to guide programming to help mitigate some of these injuries. And so, again, it's not a false hope that you give, but you understand that with science and good informed programming, you have an opportunity to have a process in place to make the athlete as robust as you can, to make them as durable as you possibly can. And if you can do that, everybody wins, because the best ability is availability, right? And so that's what we're all trying to do. And I believe that we do it power in numbers. This program is across the league. And so you can, like you're asking me this question now, like there's strength coaches talking about it. There's people talking about, hey, how do we help our athletes? We all want them. We want the competitive advantage of our unique programming, of course. But like overall, holistically, how do we raise the tide of the NBA where the product on the court is high year after year with healthier players? And again, that's a um that's that's a question where so many people have to be put in to that equation because there's so many factors, very multifactorial when you think about injuries. But it's a good start when you have objective, good data that you're collecting every day that's consistent across the board.
Perfect. Nice. Well, I have a lot of like question in terms of like training, sports science, but
Yeah,
I do want to spend most of my time on the real question I want to ask you today because
yeah.
I follow you. I can't remember since when,
Mm,
probably like 4 or 5 years ago when I think you're still with you're with the Rockets and
mhm.
you post a lot about like your faith,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And are you always a man of faith?
yeah,
Like when you're in high school, college, or uh is it because the injury that uh build the faith?
yeah. So my faith is everything to me, and it wasn't always the case. I'm thankful for the grace of God. I was a knucklehead in high school. I was always disciplined on the court, the way I would explain it, but not disciplined off the court. Um, and just through my experience, I had a lot of, points, infliction points in my life that forced me to look beyond just what I was trying to achieve personally, right? And so I was always like, as a basketball player, athlete, I found my identity in how successful I was, right? The more points I scored, the better I was. In strength and conditioning, priding myself on my programming and how good of a strength coach I wanted to be and that I was. And, I always was humbled along the way. And when that happens, it forces you to investigate your faith to a level to say, is what I'm believing, is it yielding results or yielding, I like to say, fruit in my life, not only in what I do, but who I am. And so when people see me, I want to be a reflection of my faith, right? So in in the sense of growing as a practitioner, it was always like, how do I walk out my faith and be like a good strength and conditioning coach? It was like integrity. Do what you say you're going to do. Be who you say you are. So as you're working with people, people see what you do at work and they see what you do out of work. You can fool people online, but you can't fool people when you are saying one thing at work and then doing another thing. And so for me, I had a like I call it a road to Damascus moment. In the Bible, it speaks about Paul having this moment where it was like his eyes were closed and then they were opened. And that happened about 3 years for me. And from that point is when I started to share my faith. I started to like I started with prayers and then I started to just read the Bible online. And my hope is whether you're believer or unbeliever is just to spread the message of Jesus and his grace and his goodness and kindness, and he's my Lord and Savior. And it was like I want to be a reflection of who he is, because it's not about talking about Jesus, talking about faith. Is like, can people see Jesus in you? And it wasn't until 3 years ago where I started to make some life decisions that help that help shaped my devotion to God. And as my devotion changed, which was only by his grace, right? Because again, I don't think in my own strength, I know I couldn't do it. So it's by his grace that I was able to get to this point in my life where I said, you know what? I don't only want to chase and pursue and be a great professional, but I want to honor God with everything that I do. And so that's really where it began 3 years ago when I started to share my faith. I grew up in the faith when I was, you know, 9. I was a Catholic, and then, just over time, I started to find God on my own, and that's really where my faith changed. Is when it became personal to me, and it wasn't a knowledge thing. It was more of an encounter thing. It was more of a heart change that happened in my life. And, I think that's a testimony because people who knew me even 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even when I was at OKC, I'm a different person. And I can only thank God for changing me. It wasn't in my own strength. And so today I feel like, that's something that I will always have, whether I'm in a high performance environment or not. And so I definitely share it with others because I believe that um, others deserve the same love that I received.
Nice, nice. The reason I want to ask you this question is because, like, as a strength coach, you always want to have like the perfect program. You
Yeah,
want to have like uh whatever technology, whatever strength and conditioning program whatsoever. But at the end of the day, you're still working with the human in front of you.
yeah,
And sometimes there's a lot going on with the athletes with their own life. Um, and sometimes like you need to have deeper connection to be able to develop the person in front of you.
yeah.
And I feel like different strength coaches have different ways to do that, but
Mhm.
I just feel like uh the stuff you're sharing online on Instagram,
Mm,
like feel like that in some sense might like I don't know, I just feel like you are probably able to like develop leaders around you and
yeah.
develop like players around you, if I make if I make sense.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. To develop people, you need relationship. Right? Without relationship, you can have all the competence in the world, right? All the degrees in the world. You can tell people what to do, but people, they listen to people once they know that you care, right? And so we know that in psychology, people are formed in what they see, right? And so they do what they see oftentimes, right? And so if you model a behavior, right, that's a grace behavior, it's like I'm here to serve you. I'm here to show up every day, be better at my craft, be excellent, to honor God with my craft. Like if you show up with these key principles, guys, I think naturally see that. It's not to say that you're doing to say, hey, look at me, I'm better than you. Again, none of us are better than anybody. Like you said, even with the programming, you have to be humble because we're all trying to continue to grow, right? Whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I think when you think about basketball in the game, these guys are out on the court and they're trying to develop, they're trying to grow, right? And so, okay, that's the physical box, that's the skill box, that's your occupation. But you're a family man. A lot of you guys have a mom, a dad, a sister. You want to be better. You want to be better in your relationships. Well, if you just work on the physical part, that's not really tackling being better at that part, at the life part. And so I believe as a coach, it's we want athletes, growing not only physically, but we want them growing in life, right? And it's not my job to force that upon anybody, but it is my job to be the best example, right? And to lead myself first. So one of the first principles I always tell people when it comes to developing people is lead yourself first. If you lead yourself first, well, what happens is you're going to be able to give what you're receiving in your development to other people, right? And so if you're developing good healthy habits, right? If you're in the gym, you're consistent. If you show up to work and you model the behavior of being humble, servicing people, going the extra mile when you don't have to, right? Doing the things that are unseen in the unseen hours where you don't need a pat on your back, but you just do them because that's who you are. What ends up happening is over time, people won't acknowledge it maybe, but they see it. And so as you're pointing to Instagram, it's not about the glory for myself. I always point my faith back to God because it's about him. And we first need to learn how to follow before we ever learn how to lead. And so that's the second principle is like lead yourself first, but be a follower, right? Be a follower. If you're not a follower, you maybe have a mentor, right? In the faith sense, I submit under the authority of God, so I follow him. So what is he asking me to do? That's what I do. And so I think when you develop that mindset of followers, like you're following, you develop this humility of like, I don't know it all, but I'm showing up with um, the mindset that I can grow. And so for me, it's always about developing people from the lens of, leading yourself first, like you want to be able to follow before you can lead. And so you're always going to follow. Doesn't matter what position you have. It's not about your title. It's not about your position. It's about your heart, right? And if you have a servanthood heart, you will change people's lives because they will see who you are, and it will be beyond you having the best program. It'll be beyond the weight on the bar, right? All of that stuff, we're attacking it. Trust me. We're strategic as a coaching staff, strength and conditioning staff. We are diligent. We're doing the thing. But aside from that, in order to do the thing, to get the information that can resonate with the players, you have to be able to build that equity. And that equity has to go beyond just I'm asking you to do something, so you do it, right? People want to know, are you in the foxhole with them? Are you in their corner? If they want to bring something up, hey, I'm having a rough day today. Are you willing to adjust the program to meet them where they are today? I think a lot of strength coaches, even when I was younger, we get so fixated on what it is that we want to do. What is it that I want to accomplish with I have this program, I have 10 exercises. Well, in the NBA, truth be told, you have 10 exercises, your time gets stripped away. So now instead of 25 minutes, you have 15 minutes. So you have to be able to improvise, and you have to be able to accept that I can only probably get 5 of these exercises done. Is that going to be a shot at my ego, or is that going to be an opportunity for me to be adaptable, right? And be adaptable and agile in this kind of environment so that I don't lose the relationship. Because what happens is you lose your time, you lose the stuff that you had planned, your ego gets in the way, and the athletes in front of you, and all you're thinking about is like, man, I can't do what I wanted to do. Instead, you could have been connecting with this player for the 15 minutes that you had him. And so I always look at it that way of like being in today, like no matter what gets thrown my way, our way. I don't like to say it's our way. We're gonna adapt, and we're gonna provide an excellent service where it just doesn't matter what happens. If we're on a 4 game losing streak, if we're in a return to play process, if we just have a lift that we got to get through that day, that time gets stripped away because something happened, then guess what? We're going to make the most of it. We're going to make it count. We're not going to be super caught up in like what we aren't able to do, because truth be told, it's not about us in this space. It's about basketball. And so what we're trying to do, I know you're not trying to talk too much about the sciences, but we're trying to get these guys to express more and more on the basketball court. If we can do that, then we're doing our job. If we make this a weight room contest or if we make this about us, then that's when we get in the way of the team. And the team needs to be first. And so you take the lowest seat in the room, but you work the hardest. And over time, that mindset, it one, you get promoted with that mindset. But two, you end up showing people that, hey, you can come into your work every day, you can honor the process, and you may not be the star on the team, and you can be effective. You can be useful, you can be productive. Strength coaches are not the stars in the organization of an NBA team, right? Willie Cruz is not the star. I have a staff that they're the stars, if anything, because they make me better, right? What the clinicians make me better. All of us that we work together so that we provide a service that is unified and we make the organization better. And so I think with that mindset in mind, you develop people with it, and what you start to have is a system, right? And you can put people in the system and they just grow because you have the right kind of people on the bus. I love the book by John Gordon. You get the right people on the bus, the energy, it's infectious. And when you get infectious energy, which is a controllable, I always tell people they're the four E's. I used to say three E's: energy, enthusiasm, effort, and engagement. Energy is, what's your urgency today? You're in the gym. Are you just here, or do you have some energy about it? Right? What's your intentionality behind what you're doing? Enthusiasm. Are you passionate about your work? Enthusiasm. Do you have a why? Right? When you show up every day, what is your why? What's inside of you that's internal? What's that internal motivation? Is it your faith? Is it your family? Is it just the core values of walking in integrity? You start to identify some of these things that push you and compel you to drive forward. Now you're coming into work with this enthusiasm, right? And then you have effort. Effort is, man, are you consistent? Do you show up on time? Do you have good work habits? Are you a team player? Are you putting forth the energy, the effort every single day to move forward? That's a hard skill. That's like you got to put in the time. Faith without works is dead. That means that you can have all the faith in the world, but if you're not putting forth your part, then guess what? You probably aren't moving forward. And so engagement is the fourth thing. I just added this fourth E because engagement teaches us that, hey, it's not about me, it's about us. And so I have to be able to engage with athletes, colleagues every single day. Because if I have energy, effort, enthusiasm, and effort, great. If I have that for me and I'm not in using it and injecting it into the work environment and creating a fire with everybody around me in our workspace, when guys come in the weight room, the atmosphere is like, man, these guys are energetic. We just came off of a road trip. Now they get energetic and it feeds the ecosystem. So I believe that these are the controllable things that we all can control, right? You have two of them that are more emotional, energy, energy and enthusiasm. That's like emotional regulation. That's like, man, I don't feel like doing this today, but you know what? Man, my faith, my family. Oh, you know what? I just slept 4 hours, but you know what? I want to be better today. And you start to change, right? You go beyond your feelings, and then you put in forth the effort, right? And so I think that model, if you can carry that, and we talk about this as a staff a lot because in the weight room we pride ourselves on being consistent, right? There's going to be highs and lows. When you lose games, everybody's not happy. But the strength coaches, as far as the training process every day, we got to be high energy, right? Guys aren't, they lost a game after the game. You think like I don't really want to come to a post game. But if you inject them with the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion behind what you're doing, well, guess what? They get to turn the page because it's a reflection. It's creating an environment that now is like infectious of this passion for what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish today, what we're building towards. Even though we lost, hey, it's a learning lesson, right? And if we can do that with the training process, I believe that this space, the strength and conditioning space, the sports medicine science, our space collectively builds the organization, builds the team up. And I'm getting fired up right now, even just talking about it, because it's so controllable, and you'll have bad days. You'll be, don't let one bad day turn into two. Don't let two turn into three, right? And so if you are self-aware, I tell people this all the time. It's good. The four E's only work if you're self-aware. You have to know where you are at in a season and in a day. You might be in a season that's just a tough season, and hey, you need help. You need people to help bring you along and build you up, and that's what you need. But sometimes you're going to carry the load for other people, and you're going to be just thriving in life, and you're going to be bringing that enthusiasm, and people won't give you the pat on the back, but believe it. When you do a dynamic warm up as a strength coach and you do it with high energy, right? And you got some players that are, believe that when you do it with high energy, you are impacting, you are influencing a change of behavior in them. You are injecting them with something that is transferable that they can't see, because when you come in and you're passionate about what you're doing, that signals, hey, I need to be passionate about what I'm doing. They might not be passionate about the dynamic warm up before practice. They might be going through the motions. That's okay. But when they get on that court, if they're passionate, then you did your job. And it's, again, it goes back to, it's not about you. It's about the basketball. It's about the team. It's about, hey, are you influencing the culture and doing your best to show up with the intangibles, the energy, effort, or enthusiasm, effort, and engagement, right? Engage with people in your environment. Don't be closed off. People need to see you, right? People don't care how much you know. They care about how much you care. So engage with them, like show up as though you care about them and make yourself available. And then, hey, two-way dialogue, conversation. This is happening right now. You're asking questions. It's a two-way. This is a podcast. This is more one way because you're asking questions to me. But but in our field, it's two ways. Hey, you ask me some questions, give me some feedback, player A. Hey man, I did that weight room session, man. I'm a little sore. You think we can change it up next time? Absolutely. Let's peel back the onion here and look at the program. And now we're growing because we're able to engage. We're able to have some conflict, some conversation, right? Communication is key in engagement because now we can grow. If there's no communication, there's no growth in relationship. And so, these are just principles, leadership principles, development principles that I've always just learned and then try to apply in my own life. And then now it's, just applying to my family, right? And the people I get to work with every day.
Man, I appreciate you share all this to me because uh I've been I worked at Louisville before and now I'm with the Denver Nuggets G League team.
Let's
So
go.
like we have like at Louisville really literally have everything you can imagine.
Mm,
Like force plate, 1080, biomechanics lab, literally anything you can imagine. But and like my boss, my mentor, they're like one of the best in our field, but
yeah.
we really didn't have a lot of success.
Hmm.
And when I look back, a lot
Yeah.
of times, like us as strength coach, we focus more on the science piece. We focus more on like lifting. Oh, are they fatigued or not? Whatsoever. Instead of like developing people.
Yeah.
Instead of like, yeah, we do have conversation with the athletes. Oh, are they tired or not? How they feel, but not really like developing the people
Mm,
and developing leadership.
that's
I
so
feel,
good.
yeah, I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like as there's more and more like sports science tools, biomechanics, whatsoever going on, personally, I just feel like developing people, developing leadership might able to help us get better results.
That's so good. I love what you shared about that. Thank you for that vulnerability. I've had experiences like that too, where you leave the experience and you're like, man, I don't think we were as effective as we wanted to be with the group that was placed in front of us, right? People it's like chasing a number on the bar, right? Are you after the quantity or are you after the quality of the lift, right? The quality of the lift is going to be more sustainable probably because you're doing it in a safer manner and you'll be able to stack days. If you're after a PR quantity, you know that intensification that you've now added will carry a weight, and that weight will sometimes blind you from what's right in front of you, right? And so what happens with that mindset of just education and using the sports science lens to almost kind of control, I think it's a little bit of like our way of controlling what we can, because it is research, it is a number, it is objective, but you like you said, you can lose the quality is subjective, right? And when you start talking subjective semantically, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but like people are well, like my opinion is this, my perspective is this, my so I think it comes back to like you have to have a vision, right? Where there is no vision, the people perish. And so you got to have an overarching vision of like what is it that you're trying to actually do. So for us, it's we're trying to create an environment where the gifts, the God-given gifts that these athletes have can thrive. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an environment. So to your point, the thrive or the thriving doesn't happen, the gifts don't get actualized if there's no connection, right? And so if I have a seed and I put it into fertile ground and I water it every day, it's going to grow into a tree. It's going to look beautiful. But if I have a seed and I put it on rocky ground, nothing's going to happen. And I think that is what happens oftentimes when we just come at a player with science with no connection. There's no fertile ground. So it's hitting rocky ground and there's no effectiveness. Nothing grows from that. And so I'm saying these things through experience. I've been there before many times. So instead of leading with a number, lead with an invitation. Lead with a question that invites them into the process. So, right, instead of saying, "Hey, we're going to, lift tomorrow." Say, "Hey, we at the beginning of the year, we talked about lifting. We got our heavy lift. Let's say it's heavy, slow eccentrics that we're trying to get done. We got a couple of days in between. Your tendon health. Now you have objectified something. We've looked on the tendon scans. We know that exists already. We're trying to get your tendons better. Like, what do you think about getting in a lift on this day or this day? So now they have a choice, they have a decision. They can say, hey, yeah, they can step into that process and own their process and say, hey, I want to lift on this day. And so what ends up happening is you create an environment where they feel like, hey, I'm actually a part of my training process. And it's not a one size fits all because there's going to be some times where you need to, carry a little bit of weight and say, hey, we got to get this lift in on this day. And player A may be going through a rough time. But because of the schedule, now they go through that experience with you because they trust you. That's the big thing that we miss there is like they trust you. So even when they don't feel like doing it as a coach, you've developed so much equity and rapport that when you tell them to do something that they don't necessarily want to do, they trust you. So they actually do it. And then on the other side of it, they feel better. Right. So like I think that's the key. It's you want to build trust. And so I even go back to like the three C's with this. I love the ABCs. The C's are character. You have to have the character in order for you to have the ability to use your competence. If the character isn't there, you can have all the competence in the world. It's not going to lead to what I say is the third C, confidence. The athlete's not going to be confident in what it is that you're asking them to do. And so in order for them to be confident, the relationship has to be there because they have to feel secure. They have to feel like, hey, I'm in the weight room. I trust, the development process that I'm on. And I have results and I know that they're competent at what they do, but most importantly, I trust in their character. I know that they're going to show up every day. I know that they care about me, the person, not just the athlete. And when you have that, you build a framework that allows you to have great relationships and then ultimately a really good development plan and where guys actually get better because they're actually doing the things that get them better, and they're doing it with a mindset that they believe in it. They are adhering to something that they believe in.
Nice, nice. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Um, I know it's super busy, so I'm gonna let you go. But before I let you go, I just want you to know that you're a leader that in our field that I look up to. So I really appreciate uh the training part and the faith and leadership part, especially the faith and leadership part of
Yeah.
this podcast. I do have a lot more questions to ask you, but I'm gonna let you go because I know
You
like
sure?
we
I mean, I
both.
got a little bit more time if you want to keep rolling.
No, I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
I want to do next time though.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it next time and we'll get to more of the science
Yeah.
application. Yeah, because there's a lot there, but I'm thankful for you, man, and thank you for doing this. I mean, you've had so many wonderful, colleagues of mine, and it's awesome. And I just want to encourage you. You come off extremely humble, modest, and I believe that this podcast and what you're doing to help the field is going to grow exponentially in the years to come. So I know it takes a lot of work on your side, reaching out to people, being consistent. But hey, the small things over time done consistently leads to the big things. And I just want to say I appreciate you, brother, and I hope to continue to build our relationship
Yeah,
over
of course. I
time. Yeah.
appreciate you, coach.
Get you to a Rockets game.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Good luck tonight. All right, coach.
All right, man. Thank
I'll
you.
reach out to you again.
Okay, sounds
Thank you,
good.
coach.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.